Hey there. Tonight, you're not trudging through mud or cowering in a trench. You're holding a pen, not a rifle. The lines you draw aren't on a battle map, but on a blueprint that will shape a new world. They tell you you're an artist, an architect of the future. But the concrete you're pouring is mixed with blood, and the only thing keeping your hand steady is a small, white pill that burns all the way down. Tonight, you are a builder for the Reich. The office is a monument to sterility. The air is thin, tasting of fresh ink from the plotters, the expensive, toothy paper stacked on the tables, and the sharp, clean scent of ozone from the fluorescent lamps that hum a constant, low note overhead. You stand before a drafting table that is larger than the bed you sleep on. Through the vast plate glass window, the city of Berlin is a study in gray sky, gray stone, gray uniforms moving on the streets below. In the middle distance, the steel skeleton of a new ministry building claws at the clouds, a carcass of a beast yet to be born. This is the nerve center of the Germania project, the physical manifestation of Albert Speer's grand, terrible dream. And you are one of its dreamers. Your name is Hans Richter. You remember a time, not so long ago, when your hands designed elegant country homes with sunlit reading nooks and quiet public libraries where silence was the most important building material. Now, you design monuments to a future that feels cold and hollow, a tomb for a world that isn't dead yet. The sound of polished leather on linoleum announces his arrival before he speaks. Herr Schmidt, your superior, a man whose spine seems to have been forged from the same steel as the ministry building outside. He doesn't place a roll of blueprints on your table. He lets it drop. The sound is a dull, heavy thud that echoes the feeling in your chest. Richter, a new priority. You unroll the heavy paper. The lines are beautiful, terrifying. The gross Halle, the Great Hall. A dome so impossibly vast, it would create its own interior weather system. A pantheon designed to dwarf St. Peter's, a cavern of concrete and marble where 180,000 true believers could gather to scream their devotion in a single, deafening voice. The scale isn't human. It is designed to make a man feel like an ant, a speck, a thing of no consequence before the power of the state. Schmidt watches you, a thin, dry motion disturbing the corner of his lips that he might call a smile. The Führer requires perfection, Richter. He has a particular interest in the dome's oculus. He envisions a great eagle of the Reich silhouetted against clouds. This is monumental, Herr Schmidt. The structural calculations of the tension ring alone. You trail off, your mind already racing, trying to grasp the physics of it. This will take weeks, a month, even to ensure stability. He requires it by Tuesday. The words hang in the sterile air between you. Tuesday. Today is Saturday. 3 days to accomplish a feat of engineering that should take a team of 50 men a month. You open your mouth to protest, to explain that the laws of physics do not bend to the will of any man, not even his. But the words die in your throat. You cannot say it's impossible. In the new Reich, impossible is a form of dissent. Schmidt doesn't argue. He doesn't raise his voice. He simply reaches into the pocket of his immaculate jacket and places a small, unlabeled tin box on your table. It is made of cheap metal, painted a dull gray, with a dent in one corner. It is cool and solid beneath your hesitant fingers. For focus, he says. His voice is a low, conspiratorial murmur. A pilot's aid for long missions. The Reich provides for its most valuable soldiers. You flinch internally. You're not a soldier. Your battles are with weight distribution and tensile strength, not with men. You are an architect. You slide the lid off the tin. Inside, nestled on a bed of thin yellowed cotton, are 10 small white tablets. They are scored down the middle, perfectly uniform. They look like medicine, but you know instinctively that they are not for healing. That night, your apartment is a cage. The city outside is silent, blacked out. The only light is the harsh, white glare of your desk lamp on the blueprints of the Great Hall. The numbers swim before your eyes. The elegant lines of the dome blur into a meaningless tangle. Fatigue is a physical weight, pressing down on your shoulders, your eyelids, your very thoughts. Sleep is a distant country you cannot afford to visit. Your mind is a fog of stress and exhaustion. You think of Schmidt's words, of the Führer's deadline. You think of the cold finality in his eyes. Your hand, moving with a will of its own, opens your briefcase and takes out the small, gray tin. You stare at the pills. A pilot's aid. For focus. You pick one up. It is light, almost weightless, and feels chalky against your fingertips. You hesitate for a long moment, the silence of the room amplifying the frantic, unsteady rhythm of your own heart. Then, with a shudder of resignation, you place on your tongue and swallow it dry. It tastes bitter, a sharp, chemical tang that coats the back of your throat. For 10 minutes, nothing happens. A wave of regret washes over you. What have you done? What unknown chemical is now dissolving into your bloodstream? You are a man of precision, of known quantities and predictable outcomes. This is a leap into pure, reckless faith. You consider trying to make yourself sick, to purge the poison before it takes hold. You stand up, your chair scraping against the wooden floor, and then a strange warmth begins to spread through your chest. It is not a rush, not a jolt. It is a slow, cold sunrise behind your eyes. The thick fog in your brain does not simply clear. It evaporates, burned away by a sudden, intense light. The numbers on the page, once a blurry mess, snap into sharp, three-dimensional focus. The lines of the blueprint cease to be mere ink on paper. They become clear, logical pathways, elegant solutions to impossible problems. Your hand, which moments before felt heavy as lead, now feels disembodied, an extension of pure will. It glides across the paper with an inhuman precision, your pencil a blur of motion. The soft, rhythmic scratching of graphite on vellum is the only sound in the universe. The world outside your desk lamp ceases to exist. There is only the work. Hours pass like minutes. You do not feel the gnawing hunger in your stomach. You do not feel the persistent ache in your lower back. You do not feel the weary sting of tired eyes. You are a machine of pure intellect, a disembodied consciousness dedicated to a single, glorious task. You are no longer Hans Richter, the man who loves the poetry of Rilke and the music of Bach. You are a tool, and you are perfectly sharp. You glance up, pulled from your trance by a subtle shift in the light. The gray of the pre-dawn sky is beginning to pale outside your window. Down on the street below, a column of SS guards marches past, their jackboots striking the cobblestones in perfect, synchronized rhythm. Their movements are stiff, angular, devoid of wasted motion. They are components of a larger machine. And for the first time in your life, you feel a strange, chilling kinship with them. You are both cogs. You are both fueled. You are both serving the same grand design. 2 nights later, your work is nearly complete. The blueprints for the dome, a masterpiece of structural integrity and aesthetic terror, lie finished on your table. You have slept for perhaps 4 hours in 3 days, but you do not feel tired. You feel electric. A discreet knock on your apartment door makes you jump. It is not the sharp, authoritarian rap of the Gestapo. It is soft, hesitant. You open it to find Klaus, a friend from your university days. He was a poet then, a man who believed in the power of words to change the world. Now he works in the city's waterworks department. A man who believes in the power of keeping his head down. His eyes are nervous, constantly shifting, scanning the empty hallway behind him. He steps inside quickly and you close the door. He doesn't comment on the state of your apartment, the scattered papers, the cold coffee cups. He doesn't speak of architecture. He speaks in a low, urgent whisper of other things, of lists being made, of neighbors who are there one day and gone the next, of a sickness in the heart of Germany, a sickness that men of conscience have a duty to cut out, no matter the cost. "It's a cancer, Hans," he whispers, his hands twisting a worn woolen cap. It pretends to be strength. It builds these stone monsters to prove its permanence. But it's a disease. It's rotting us from the inside. His eyes fall upon the blueprints of the great hall spread across your table. The impossible amount of work completed in an impossible amount of time. Then his gaze shifts to the small, gray tin sitting next to your inkwell. He doesn't look surprised. He doesn't judge. He just nods a slow, sad acceptance. "They're giving you that, are they?" he asks quietly, "to build their world faster." He takes a breath, and his voice drops even lower. "You see everything they're building, Hans. Every monument, every bunker, every new barracks. You know the supply lines. You know the construction schedules. You know the precise mixture of the concrete and the load-bearing capacity of the steel. You know the weak points." He looks up, and his eyes lock onto yours. The desperation in them is a physical force. You can help. You can tell us where to find the cracks in their foundation. He is asking you to become a traitor. He is asking you to use the Reich's own tools, the very skills they value in you, against them. He is asking you to become a saboteur. You look from Klaus's desperate, pleading face to the pristine, perfect lines of your blueprint. That blueprint is a work of genius. You know it. It is the most complex, most brilliant piece of architecture you have ever produced. The pill gave you the clarity to build their dream. Now, Klaus is asking you to use that same clarity to engineer its collapse. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic, unsteady rhythm that seems to shake your whole body. Your mind, once a palace of clean lines and clear calculations, is suddenly a maelstrom of conflict. You need to think. You need to be sharp. You need more focus. Without looking away from Klaus, your hand reaches for the tin. You slide a pill out and swallow it. The pill hits, but this time it doesn't bring the cold, calm clarity you expect. It brings something else. A razor-sharp, hyper-detailed awareness of your surroundings. The pattern of the wood grain on your floor. The faint smell of ozone still clinging to your clothes. The way the light from the street lamp casts a long, distorted shadow of Klaus against the wall. And you notice something you have never seen before. Through your window, across the street, you can see into the office of Herr Schmidt. It is dark, of course, at this hour, but his window has two sets of curtains, a heavy outer layer and a sheer inner one. You never noticed that before. And behind that sheer, translucent layer, you think you see it. The silhouette of a man standing perfectly still, his form just an absence of light, looking directly at your building, at your window. Is he real? Or is this just the beginning of the fear? The next day at the office is a symphony of quiet terrors. You exist in a state of hypervigilance, a taut wire humming with unseen frequencies. Every time a colleague clears his throat behind you, you imagine it's a coded signal. Every telephone that rings in a distant office, and his answer on the first ring, is a report being made about you. The heavy, rhythmic tread of boots in the corridor outside your door causes you to freeze, your pencil hovering over the vellum, waiting for them to stop, for the handle to turn. The Pervitin keeps you awake, it keeps your mind sharp, but it has a side effect you hadn't anticipated. It hones your fear into a fine, sharp point, turning every shadow into a threat. The man from the silhouette is everywhere. You see his reflection in the polished brass of an elevator door. You catch a glimpse of a figure in a long coat standing in a crowd across the street, his face always obscured by a hat or the angle of the sun. He is a ghost that the drug has summoned, and he is hunting you. Klaus gives you your first task. It's delivered on a scrap of paper, passed to you in a fleeting moment as you brush past each other in a crowded market. The task is small, almost insulting. He needs a delivery schedule for high-grade reinforcing steel being sent to the Olympic Stadium construction site. Just the schedule, not the plans, not the formulas. A simple piece of logistics. A surge of disappointment flashes through you. Is this all your great knowledge is worth? Then, a colder realization follows. This is a test. A simple, low-risk test of your ability and your nerve. That night, fueled by another white pill, you begin. You descend into the ministry archives, a cavernous, dusty basement smelling of mold and decaying paper. You cross-reference shipping manifests, railway timetables, and project requisitions. The bureaucratic web is dense, designed to be impenetrable, but your mind, amplified by the drug, moves through it like a surgeon's scalpel, slicing through red tape, finding connections, extracting the single thread of information you need. You forge a requisition form to access the transport office's private ledger, your hand perfectly mimicking the signature of a deputy minister you've only seen once. Your hands do not shake. The lie flows from your pen as easily as a straight line. The dead drop is in the tear garden, beneath a specific bench near the Swan Pond. It is a crisp autumn afternoon. The park is full of mothers with strollers and old men reading newspapers. You feel 1,000 eyes on you. You feel like an actor on a brightly lit stage, every gesture magnified, every step scrutinized. You carry a rolled-up newspaper in your left hand, the delivery schedule tucked tightly inside. You stroll with a feigned casualness that feels stiff and unnatural. You reach the bench. You sit. You place the paper on the ground beneath the bench, near the right leg. You bend down to tie your shoelace, your fingers fumbling with the knot. The simple act feels monumental, a line you are crossing for which there is no return. You stand up, brush the dust from your trousers, and walk away without looking back. You can feel the back of your neck prickling, the phantom sensation of being watched. The next morning, a small article on page 4 of the morning paper reports a minor train derailment due to mechanical failure on the line heading north from the Anhalter Bahnhof station. A shipment of industrial materials was destroyed. No one was harmed. The article is dry, boring, but you know, no steel will arrive at the stadium for at least 2 weeks. At the office, Schmidt is furious. Not at you, but at the world. He slams his fist on a subordinate's desk, making the inkwells jump. He curses the incompetence of the railway, the laxity of the inspectors, the general decay of German efficiency. He paces his office like a caged panther. Then he stops and looks at you, his eyes narrowed. "You look tired, Richter," he says. The anger in his voice isn't replaced by a cold, appraising tone. "But your work is excellent. Flawless. Keep taking the tablets." He dismisses you with a wave of his hand. He thinks the drug is merely a tool for his ambitions. He has no idea it is also the weapon being used against him. The double life demands more of you. By day, you are the model architect. Your designs of grand boulevards of Germania are praised for their heroic scale and unyielding spirit. You attend meetings, you answer technical questions, you nod and smile in all the right places. By night, you are a ghost in the archives, a whisper in the machine. You pore over those same heroic plans, not for their beauty, but for their vulnerabilities. You study the city's power grids, water mains, and communication lines. You are no longer just an architect of buildings. You are becoming an architect of collapse. Sleep becomes a forgotten luxury. 3 hours a night, if you are lucky. Sometimes none at all. The pills are no longer for focus. They are for survival. They are the fuel that keeps the engine of your deception running. You start taking 2 at a time. The world takes on a hard, metallic sheen. Sounds are sharper, louder. Colors seem to vibrate with an unnatural intensity. The quiet hum of the office lights feels like a scream inside your skull. Klaus introduces you to others, but never by name and never in the same place twice. There's a librarian, a woman with ink-stained fingers who procures restricted documents and information. There's a conductor, a grim-faced railwayman who arranges for things, and sometimes people, to be in the right place at the wrong time. You meet in the hushed back rooms of bakeries that smell of yeast and fear, in the echoing basements of bombed-out apartment buildings, in the shadows of forgotten statues. They don't call you Hans. They call you the draftsman. You are a phantom, a name on no list. Your only identity is the knowledge you carry in your head, the secret you steal from the heart of the Reich. Your second task is more complex, more dangerous. They want you to alter the concrete mixture specifications for a new U-boat bunker foundation being built in Hamburg. It needs to be a subtle change, not enough to be noticed during inspection, but just enough to make the foundation brittle under sustained vibration, like the kind caused by Allied bombing. A higher ratio of sand to cement. A simple, elegant act of sabotage hidden in a column of numbers. You work on the forged documents all night, your mind a high-speed engine of calculation and forgery. The Pervitin sings in your veins, a high, thin note of pure, unadulterated focus. You are almost finished, the forged signature of the chief engineer drying on the page, when your hand jerks. A single, tiny drop of black ink falls from the nib of your pen onto a non-critical section of the document, a paragraph detailing standard curing procedures. A black star on a field of white. Your heart lurches. You quickly blot it with a spare piece of paper, but a faint, gray smudge remains. It is a flaw, a tiny, insignificant mistake. But in your world, there is no such thing as an insignificant mistake. 2 days later, they are waiting for you in your office. 2 men in long, black leather coats. They are from the Gestapo. You know it without them saying a word. They don't introduce themselves. They don't smile. They simply stand on either side of your drafting table, their presence sucking all the air and warmth from the room. The junior architects in the outer office studiously avoid looking in your direction. One of the men places the smudged document on your desk. He doesn't slam it down. He places it gently, with a kind of predatory reverence. "Did you authorize this change, Richter?" His voice is soft, calm, which is far more terrifying than if he had shouted. Your heart stops. The Pervitin coursing through your system turns to ice. The world seems to tilt on its axis. You can't tell if your hands are shaking or if the entire room is vibrating. Your gaze is fixed on that faint, gray smudge. It seems to pulse and grow, a mark of your guilt, a beacon in the dark. One of the Gestapo men leans in close. His breath smells of stale coffee and cigarettes. He doesn't look at you. He looks at the paper. He taps the ink smudge with a clean, perfectly manicured fingernail. The small sound is like a gunshot in the silent room. "The ink is fresh," he says, his voice still unervingly quiet. "The requisition was filed yesterday, but the signature is dated for last week." Explain. Your mind is a blank white wall. There are no numbers, no lines, no calculations. There is only silence, the sound of your own blood roaring in your ears. The silence in the room stretches, tightens. becomes a thing of unbearable weight, and you realize the pill hasn't given you clarity. It has only given you the energy to be terrified. A strange calm descends upon you. It is not the cold, electric focus of the drug. It is something else, something deeper, the primal, detached clarity of an animal cornered. Your survival instinct takes over, a cold and ancient machine cranking to life in the back of your brain. You lift your eyes from the damning smudge on the paper and meet the agent's flat, lifeless gaze. You let out a small, weary sigh, as if you are a busy man being bothered with trivialities. Yes, you say, and you are relieved to find your voice is steady, even. An unfortunate but necessary breach of protocol. I discovered a minor calculation error in the original plans last week. An error in the aggregate to cement ratio. If we had followed the original specifications, the foundation's compressive strength would have been compromised by nearly 5%. You pause, letting the technical jargon settle in the air. To submit a formal revision would have meant a 2-week delay for reapproval by the engineering committee, a delay the fatherland can ill afford. I made the correction and backdated the authorization to save the Reich valuable time and money. You even managed a small, apologetic smile, the smile of a patriot who has bent the rules for the greater good. My haste, I'm afraid, led to that small ink stain. My apologies for the sloppiness. The two agents stare at you. Their faces are unreadable masks of bureaucratic suspicion. The silence returns, heavier this time, thick with unspoken threats. You can feel a single bead of sweat tracing a cold path down your spine. You force yourself to remain perfectly still, to not break eye contact. Then, the lead agent makes a small noise in his throat, a grunt of what could be annoyance or acceptance. He picks up the paper, folds it neatly in half, and slips it into the inner pocket of his coat. See that it doesn't happen again, Herr Richter, he says, his voice flat. Efficiency is no excuse for sloppiness. They turn in unison, their movements as synchronized as the SS guards you saw from your window and walk out of your office. You remain standing for a full minute after they are gone, listening to their footsteps fade down the hall. Then your knees buckle. You slide down the cool surface of the wall until you're sitting on the floor, your head in your hands, gasping for air like a man who has just surfaced from a deep, cold dive. The close call shatters your confidence. The carefully constructed wall between your two lives has been breached. The paranoia, once a humming background frequency, returns as a screaming, deafening roar. The man in the silhouette is no longer a faceless phantom. He now wears the face of a Gestapo agent. You see him everywhere, in every shadow, in the reflection of every shop window, in the face of every stranger who holds your gaze for a second too long. You hear his soft, menacing voice in the static of the radio between broadcasts. You become meticulous, obsessive. You double-check, then triple-check every line you draw, every number you calculate, both your real work for the Reich and your secret work for the resistance. You are terrified of making another mistake, of leaving another smudge of ink that could lead them back to you. The pills are a constant companion now. You no longer take them for focus. You take them to function, to keep the shaking in your hands at bay, to silence the screaming in your own mind. You can't live with a drug, but you cannot survive without it. Your physical appearance begins to change. Your suits, once perfectly tailored, now hang off your thinning frame. Your skin takes on a pale, waxy texture, stretched taut over the bones of your face. A constant, fine tremor lives in your hands, a betrayal you try to hide by clasping them behind your back or stuffing them in your pockets. Schmidt notices, but he misinterprets the symptoms. You are a true patriot, Richter, he says one afternoon, observing you from his doorway, burning the candle at both ends of the Führer. A model of dedication. He steps closer. But you look unwell. You should see the ministry, doctor. Get a tonic for your nerves. He places another gray tin of Pervitin on your desk, a fresh supply. He thinks he is offering you the cure. He has no idea he is feeding you the cause of your disease. You meet Klaus in a crowded U-Bahn station, the air thick with the smell of damp wool and coal dust. The screech of the train wheels masks your conversation. He looks older, more frayed than the last time you saw him. The poet in his eyes has been completely extinguished, replaced by the grim watchfulness of a hunted animal. He tells you the network is shrinking. The librarian, the woman with the ink-stained fingers, has been taken. No one knows how or why. She just vanished. They are watching everyone, Hans, he hisses, his words barely audible over the roar of a departing train. They are listening to everything. The walls have ears, and the ears have informants. You can't trust anyone. He presses a small, heavy object into the palm of your hand, closing your fingers around it. For emergencies, you open your hand on the train ride home. It is a single cyanide capsule encased in dark glass, small enough to hide between your teeth. It is cold and smooth and impossibly heavy. It is the final, absolute guarantee of your silence. That night, the world begins to dissolve. You are working late on the layout for the heating and ventilation ducts for the new Reich Chancellery, a maze of steel and air. You have been awake for 72 hours straight. You stare at the blueprint, and the straight, black lines begin to curve and warp, squirming on the page like living things. The paper itself seems to breathe, rising and falling with a slow, shallow rhythm. You hear whispers coming from the air vents in your own apartment. It sounds like your father's voice, a man dead for 10 years, telling you how disappointed he is, how you have squandered your talent. You look down at your hands, and for a terrifying, heart-stopping second, you can see through them. You see the flesh become translucent, the bones beneath glowing faintly, and then you see the dark with grain of the desk right through your own skin. You stumble back from the desk, a choked cry caught in your throat. You stagger to the small bathroom and splash icy water on your face, the shock of the cold a welcome anchor. You grip the porcelain edge of the sink, your knuckles white, focusing on its cold, solid reality. This is real, you tell yourself. The sink is real. You begin to count the white tiles on the floor. 1, 2, 3. You recite the formula for the tensile strength of steel, whispering it like a prayer. Anything to tether your fragmenting mind back to the world of logic and reason. Slowly, the whispers fade. Your hands become solid again, but the fear remains, a cold residue that clings to you. The drug is no longer a tool. It is a cage, and your mind is the prisoner rattling the bars. The next morning, you are a ghost at your own desk. You feel hollowed out, fragile. A junior architect named Greta, a quiet, observant woman you've barely spoken to, approaches your table. She is holding a set of your plans for the new Soldiers' Hall, a project you completed weeks ago. Herr Richter, she says, her voice low and steady. She points to a specific section of the plan, a cross-section of a major support column. Your calculations here are perfect, almost too perfect. You tense, your blood turned to ice. It's the most efficient design possible, using the minimum amount of steel required by code. It would pass any inspection. She looks up from the blueprint, and her eyes meet yours. They are wide, and you see something in them you recognize, fear. But if one specific joint, she continues, her finger tracing a line to a single critical weld point, just this one were to fail from, say, a sustained harmonic vibration, the whole load would shift. She stops, her eyes holding yours. She doesn't finish the sentence. She doesn't have to. She sees it. She sees the flaw you designed, the flaw you hid in plain sight. Greta doesn't look accusatory. She looks terrified. She glances quickly over her shoulder at the other architects, then leans closer to you. Her next words are a whisper, so faint you can barely hear it over the frantic pounding of your own heart. My brother, she says, her voice trembling slightly. He was a student at the university. He was taken last month for distributing leaflets. She swallows hard. If you need a second set of eyes to review your work for accuracy, just let me know. Is she an ally? A sister in a secret war? Or is this a trap? A Gestapo test of loyalty far more subtle, far more insidious than two men in leather coats. Your mind races, a whirlwind of paranoia and desperate hope. To trust her could be a death sentence. To refuse her could mean losing the only potential lifeline you have. You stare at Greta, your mind a battlefield. The part of you that has been sharpened by months of paranoia, the part that is screaming with the metallic energy of the Pervitin, insists it is a trap. It is too perfect, too convenient. This is how they find you. This is how they test you. They send a lamb to the slaughter to see if the wolf will reveal itself. But there's another part of you, a smaller, quieter part that you thought was long dead. It sees a genuine, unfeigned terror in her eyes. It recognizes a tremor in her voice not as an act, but as the echo of its own fear. It is the part of you that remembers what it was like to be human. You make a decision. You take the gamble. You give a single, sharp nod, a tiny, almost imperceptible movement. You don't speak. You slide a secondary blueprint across the table. It's a plan for a minor electrical substation, a project you'd already filed. But before sliding it over, you'd spent 10 minutes creating a minor, non-critical error within it. A miscalculation in the load distribution for grid C that would, at worst, cause a few fuses to blow during peak hours. A test. You tap the paper. Check the load distribution on grid C. You say, your voice a dry rasp. My numbers feel soft. She takes the blueprint without a word and retreats to her own desk. The next hour is the longest of your life. You pretend to work, but your eyes are fixed on her, watching her slim back, the intense focus instead of her shoulders. You are a man on a gallows, waiting for the trapdoor to spring. She returns. She places a blueprint on your desk, her expression unreadable. She points to the very area you planted. A simple rounding mistake, she says, her voice level professional. It could cause some hairline cracks in the conduit housing in 10 years. Easily fixed. She has passed the first part of the test. She is competent. Then she looks you directly in the eye, and her finger slides to a completely different part of the plan, a section detailing the main transformer's concrete mounting pad, a section you had designed to the resistance weeks ago, containing a real hidden flaw. She taps it twice. But this, she says, her voice dropping to a near whisper, this recipe for the concrete, it would allow water to seep in. It would bring the whole wing down during the first deep winter frosts. Very clever. She's real. She's an ally. The relief that floods through you is so profound, so overwhelming. It almost makes you sick. Your knees feel weak. For the first time in months, you are not entirely alone in your own head. You and Greta begin a silent partnership, a conspiracy conducted in the margins of a grander design. You communicate not with words, but with the coded language of your profession. A note left in a blueprint tube, a subtle mark on a schematic that only another architect would understand, a misplaced decimal point that signals danger. She becomes your verifier, your sanity check. She reviews your acts of sabotage, finding ways to make them more elegant, more undetectable. She is your second set of eyes. But more than that, she is a tether to the world you are losing. She sees the tremor in your hands that you can no longer hide. She sees the way you grind your teeth when you think no one is looking. One evening, as you work late under the harsh glare of your lamp, she approaches your desk and wordlessly places a small sandwich wrapped in wax paper and a bottle of milk beside your hand. You look up at her, confused. You have to eat, Hans, she whispers, her eyes full of sorrowful understanding. The ghosts can't be fought on an empty stomach. With Greta's help, your work for the resistance becomes bolder, more ambitious. You're no longer just stealing schedules. You are rewriting the very bones of the new Berlin. You sabotage the complex drainage systems from new north-south axis, the Grand Parade Road, subtly altering the gradient calculations. You ensure that, come winter, the road will flood and freeze, becoming an impassable sheet of ice for heavy armored vehicles. You miscalibrate the specifications for the electrical wiring in a new SS barracks on the outskirts of the city, creating a fire hazard so deeply embedded in the walls that it would never be discovered until it was too late. Each act is a small, precise cut with a surgeon's knife, a paper cut on the Colossus of the Reich. But you know it's not enough. You are trimming the beast's claws, not aiming for its heart. The constant strain and the escalating drug use are exacting a terrible price. Your body is in open rebellion. You suffer from blinding headaches that feel as if someone is driving a nail into the base of your skull. Your gums bleed when you brush your teeth. One afternoon, while reviewing a blueprint, you feel a sudden warm trickle from your nose. You touch it, and your fingers come away slick with bright red blood. You stumble to the washroom, pressing a handkerchief to your face. The nosebleed is a torrent, soaking through the cloth, dripping onto the pristine white tiles of the floor. You lean against the sink, lightheaded, staring at your reflection in the mirror. You don't recognize the man who stares back. His eyes are wild, cavernous holes in a face of waxy, translucent skin. His cheeks are sunken, his hair thinning. The drug that was meant to keep you sharp is now dissolving you from the inside out. Klaus calls for a meeting, the most dangerous one yet. The location itself is a sign of the stakes. The flak tower at the Berlin Zoo, during a citywide air raid drill. You join the stream of citizens filing into the massive concrete structure. The air inside is cold, damp, and echoes with the shuffling of feet and nervous coughs. Then, the sirens begin to wail outside, a rising, mournful scream that vibrates through the very foundations of the tower. Amidst the manufactured panic of the drill, your quiet meeting can begin. Klaus, Greta, and the conductor are there, their faces grim in the dim emergency lighting. Klaus gets straight to the point. He lays out the new objective. It's the one you've been dreading, the one you knew was always coming. The Gross Halley, the centerpiece of Germania, the dark heart of their new world. The network wants to bring it down. Not now, not during construction. They want to bring it down during the inaugural rally, with the Führer and an entire high command of the Third Reich inside. Klaus explains the plan, and you feel the last of the warmth leave your body. They don't want you to plant a bomb. A bomb is crude, detectable. It could be discovered. They want something more elegant, more terrible. They want you to build the bomb into the very structure of the building itself. They want you to design a fatal, calculated flaw in the statics of the Great Dome, a specific, hidden resonance point, an architectural aneurysm. When the sound of 180,000 fanatics stamping their feet and screaming their adulation reaches a precise harmonic frequency, it will cause a catastrophic structural failure. The building will not be destroyed by an outside force. It will be shaken apart by the very fanaticism it was built to house. A self-inflicted wound. You stare at him in horror. The idea is both genius and utterly monstrous. You would be using your greatest skill, the one thing in your life you have ever taken pride in, to become a mass murderer. The victims wouldn't just be the Nazi leadership. They would be the engineers who trusted your calculations, the workers who poured the concrete and drove the rivets, the thousands of ordinary citizens, men, women, even children, swept up in the frenzy of the rally. Your mind reels. This isn't resistance. This is slaughter. It's a sacrifice, Klaus says, his voice hollow, as if he is trying to convince himself as much as you. A terrible one, but it's for the greater good. To decapitate the snake, you must destroy the nest. You return to your apartment, your mind a howling void. This is beyond sabotage. This is an act of apocalyptic destruction. You would be no better than them, using engineering and logistics to commit mass murder. You unroll the master blueprints of the dome, the ones you created in that first Pervitin fuel blaze of genius. You stare at the elegant, sweeping curves, the intricate web of supports and tension rings. It was meant to be your masterpiece, a structure to stand for 1,000 years. Now, they want you to turn it into a tomb. You feel familiar tremor in your hands, the gnawing anxiety that only one thing can silence. You open the gray tin. There are only 3 pills left. You shake 2 into your palm and swallow them dry. The Pervitin ignites your brain, burning away the moral fog, leaving only the cold, hard calculus of the problem. Your fear and disgust are cauterized, replaced by a terrible, inhuman clarity. You stare at the plans, and you see it. The path is there, waiting for you. It's a single, critical tension ring at the very apex of the dome, the linchpin that holds the entire structure in equilibrium. If you were to change the metallurgical composition of the steel alloy for that specific ring, just slightly, if you were to alter the load-bearing calculations for its support struts by a fraction of a degree, if you were to design it in such a way that a specific harmonic frequency, the precise wavelength generated by the rhythmic stomping of a massive crowd, would create a vibration that exceeded its tensile strength, it would hold during construction. It would pass every stress test, every inspection. The flaw would be completely dormant, invisible, a serpent sleeping in the steel. It would only awaken under precise conditions of the rally. It is undetectable. It is perfect. It is the most brilliant and most evil thing you have ever conceived. You finish the new calculations just as the first. Pale light of dawn bleeds through your window, staining the gray sky. The flawed blueprint, your masterpiece of death, lies on your desk. You are utterly spent, a hollow shell. You hear a sound that makes your blood run cold. The soft metallic click of a key turning in your apartment door lock. You freeze, every nerve ending screaming. You live alone. The door creaks open slowly, and the silhouette of Schmidt, your boss, fills the frame. He is holding a file in one hand. He glances from your haggard face to the new blueprint on the table, and a thin smile touches his lips. "Working late again, Richter?" he says, his voice a smooth, silken purr. Or should I say, working early? Schmidt steps inside, closing the door softly behind him. The sound of the latch clicking into place feels like a cell door slamming shut. He doesn't look angry. He doesn't look suspicious. He looks pleased, disappointed, perhaps, in your haggard appearance, but pleased. He gestures with a file towards the blueprints on your table, the documents that contain the death warrant for thousands. "The calculations of the dome," he says, his voice full of admiration. "Remarkable. You found a way to increase the tensile strength of the ocular support structure while using less steel. Ingenious." He is looking at your flawed plan. He is holding your act of treason in his hands, and he has completely misinterpreted its terrible genius. He thinks your weapon is a shield. He thinks your act of sabotage is an act of supreme patriotism, a feat of engineering for the glory of the Reich. The Fuhrer will be pleased, Schmidt continues, his thin smile widening. He is a man who can smell a promotion, and he believes you have just handed it to him. He is personally reviewing the final dome project tomorrow morning. I am putting you in charge of the presentation. This is your moment, Richter, your masterpiece. Don't fail. He claps you on the shoulder, a gesture of camaraderie that feels like the brand of a hot iron. You are being rewarded for the coffin you just built. You find Greta in the archives later that day, her back to you as she files rolled-up plans into their cardboard tubes. You tell her what happened, your voice a ragged, urgent whisper lost in the dusty silence of the vast room. When you finish, she turns to face you, and her face is pale, the color of old parchment. Hans, this is a disaster, she breathes, her eyes wide with panic. If you present that plan to the committee, it will be approved. It will be built. You can't back out of presentation now. It would be an admission of guilt. She grips your arm, her fingers digging into your sleeve. You have to switch the blueprints. You must. Find a way to submit the original, safe design. Tell them you found an error in your new calculations, that you were mistaken, but you both know it's too late. Schmidt has already taken your flawed copy for a preliminary review. To submit the old plan now, to claim your ingenious new design was a mistake, will be to invite a scrutiny you could not possibly survive. Incompetence at best. Sabotage at worst. You are trapped by your own cleverness. The network is counting on you. Klaus's words echo in your head. Decapitate the snake. You feel a strange, fatalistic calm settle over you. The decision has been made for you. The great, grinding machine of the state is moving forward, and you are strapped to the very front of it. The presentation room is small, paneled in dark, imposing wood. You stand before a small committee of men who hold the fate of the world in their soft, manicured hands. Albert Speer is there, his face an architect's mask of cool, professional appraisal. Martin Bormann is beside him, a squat, powerful man whose eyes miss nothing. They stare at you, their gaze is cold and analytical, and you feel like a bug under a microscope. You are running on the energy of the very last Pervitin pill in 3 days of no sleep. Your body is a hollowed-out husk, but your mind is a flawless, glittering machine. You present the flawed design. You speak of efficiencies in material usage and innovative structural dynamics. Your voice is a monotone, a recording playing back the lies you rehearsed all night. You feel a profound sense of detachment, as if you're floating near the ceiling, watching another man speak, using your mouth, your hands. This man is calm, confident, brilliant. You, the real you, are screaming. They ask sharp, technical questions. They probe for weaknesses, for errors. The drug gives you the answers. Your mind, a flawless engine of deceit, spits out data, equations, and confident falsehoods. You lie with the precision of a master craftsman building a perfect, beautiful thing. At the end of your presentation, there's a long silence. Speer leans back in his chair, tapping a long finger against his lips. He nods slowly. Excellent work, Richter, he says, his voice carrying the weight of finality. Truly inspired. Proceed with these specifications immediately. The death warrant is signed. Weeks turn into months. The construction site for the gross Halley becomes the center of your universe. You walk the grounds daily, a ghost in a hard hat, watching your monstrous creation claw its way into the sky. Every rivet driven home sounds like a hammer on a coffin nail. Every massive steel beam hoisted into place is another line in a death sentence for thousands. You see the faces of the workers, covered in sweat and grime, their expressions full of pride in the colossal thing they're building. They are oblivious. You want to scream a warning, to tell them what they're standing on, but your throat is filled with cement. You say nothing. The hallucinations, no longer held back by the drug, return with a vengeance. The lack of sleep and the constant, grinding stress are prying your mind apart. You see Klaus in the crowds of workers, his face anxious, even though you know he has gone deep into hiding. You hear the soft, menacing voice of the Gestapo agent whispering your name from empty rooms. Worst of all, you start seeing the faces of the people who will die. They appear in the random patterns of the poured concrete, in the shifting reflections on the polished steel beams. A young boy's face, smiling, an old woman's, her eyes full of confusion. They stare at you, their expressions not anger, but of a deep, silent sorrow. They are the ghosts of a future you are creating. One night, you are on the scaffolding high inside the dome, reviewing the final placement for critical tension ring, the linchpin of your entire plan. A foreman approaches you, a grizzled, Older man named Franz whose hands are as rough and cracked as old leather. He squints at your blueprint in the dim worklight, his thumb tracing the specifications for the fatal joint. Strange alloy for this joint, Herr Richter, he says, his voice a low rumble. He taps the plan with a dirt-caked fingernail. We used something similar on a bridge in Dresden once. Things shook like a leaf in a high wind whenever a train went over it. Never felt right. Had to be torn down a few years later. He looks up from the blueprint, his eyes full of a simple, practical curiosity, meeting yours. You're sure about this? Your blood runs cold. The old man's simple, practical question strikes you with more force than a Gestapo interrogation. This is not a threat. It is a search for truth, an inquiry from one builder to another. And for that reason, it is infinitely more dangerous. You force a laugh. It comes out as a dry, cracking sound. New metallurgical formulas, Franz, far superior to anything they were using in Dresden. You say, your voice a mass of condescending authority. You launch into a torrent of technical jargon, a smokescreen of words you invent on the spot. The Reich's new vanadium-chromium blend has a much higher tensile modulus, allowing for reduction in aggregate mass without compromising the static load integrity. The science has advanced. He seems satisfied. He is a man who builds what he is told to build. He trusts the men with the pencils and the slide rules. He nods, shrugs, and lumbers away across the scaffolding, disappearing into the shadows of the colossal structure. But the seed of doubt he planted has not taken root in his mind. It has taken root in yours. You are no longer just deceiving the party, the SS, the Führer. You are lying to the faces of the good, simple men who are unknowingly building their own tomb. A letter arrives from your sister, the first in months. The postmark is from your small hometown, a place you have not seen since before the war. Her handwriting is a familiar, comforting script from a life you no longer recognize as your own. She writes about the mundane things, the rationing, the nightly air raid drills, the fear that had become a permanent part of the weather. But then she writes about her son, your nephew, Eric. He has just turned 16. He has joined the Hitler Youth. She writes with a terrifying, unthinking pride that he has been chosen, due to his exemplary discipline, to be part of the Youth Honor Guard at the Great Hall's inauguration. He will be inside. He will be standing directly beneath the great oculus when the dome falls. The news breaks something deep inside you. The thin, frayed core of your sanity, stretched taut for months, finally snaps. Your nephew's bright, earnest face, a face you remember from Christmases and summer holidays, now joins the silent, accusing chorus of ghosts that haunt the construction site. The cold, ideological distinction between enemy and innocent, between a necessary sacrifice and pure, vulgar act of slaughter, dissolves into nothing. What started as a precise, surgical act of resistance has metastasized into a crude, personal murder. The snake you meant to decapitate now has your sister's son in its coils. You begin to vomit every morning before work, your body rejecting a world it can no longer stomach. You cannot eat. You cannot sleep. You are coming apart at the seams. You arrange a desperate, final meeting with the conductor, the grim-faced railway man, the only contact you have left since Klaus vanished into deep underground. You meet him on a fog-shrouded bridge over the Spree, the shapes of the city's grand museums reduced to indistinct lumps in the gray mist. You beg him. You plead with him to call it off. There's another way. You insist, your voice ragged, desperate. We can delay the construction. We can sabotage the power grid for the rally. This is madness. There will be children in there. My own family. The conductor is unmoved. He is a hard, grim man forged in the crucible of a lost war and a failed revolution. He sees the world in black and white, as a series of tactical problems. The plan is in motion. The pieces are set. It is too late to recall them, he says, his voice flat, devoid of sympathy. Your part is done, draftsman. You have built the weapon. Now you just have to stand back and watch it fire. He turns to leave, then pauses. For your own safety, your colleague, Greta, has been reassigned to a munitions project in Munich. A precaution. He says it casually, but you understand the true meaning. You are alone now. Truly, absolutely alone. The network has cut you loose. You are a tool that has served its purpose, left on the battlefield to witness the consequences of your own use. You walk back to the empty, fog-filled streets of Berlin, a dead man walking. You throw yourself back into the work. It is the only thing left. You become obsessed with the dome, a high priest in a temple of destruction. You are there from dawn until long after the last of the work crews have gone home. You walk the scaffolding in the dark, touching the cold steel, running your hands over the rough concrete. You memorized every joint, every weld, every single rivet. You know its anatomy better than you know your own. Is it guilt that drives you? A morbid fascination? Or are you subconsciously looking for a way to undo it? A last-minute flaw you can fix? A miracle you can perform? You no longer know. You are simply performing your rites. The date for the inauguration is announced. 6 weeks from today. It will coincide with the Führer's birthday, a grand celebration of his vision and the Reich's power. The city is buzzing with the news. The propaganda machine roars to life, hailing the dome as the eighth wonder of the modern world, a symbol of eternal German strength. Eternal, the irony of the word, is a physical pain in your chest. You stand on the highest observation deck, looking down into the massive skeletal bowl of the hall. The ghosts are with you, their faces swirling, the dust motes dancing in the shafts of light. You see it all with a perfect, terrible clarity, a clarity that needs no drug. You have two choices. They are simple. They are absolute. You can let it happen. You can stand by and watch your creation kill thousands, including your own family. You will survive, perhaps, but you will live the rest of your life with their ghosts. A spiritual death from which there is no recovery. Or you can stop it. But to stop it, you would have to confess. You would have to walk into their offices and expose the fatal flaw in your own design. In doing so, you expose yourself and what little remains of the network. It would mean a Gestapo cellar. It would mean torture. It would mean a slow, agonizing death. You choose death, a physical death over a spiritual one. You will confess. It is the only way to reclaim a single shred of your own humanity. You walk back to your office late that night to retrieve the cyanide capsule, your final contingency. You find the door unlocked. Your blood freezes. You push it open slowly. Everything is as you left it. The blueprints, the pencils, the faint smell of ozone and fear. But on your pristine, empty drafting table, placed directly in the center, right next to the inkwell where you keep the cyanide capsule hidden, someone has placed a single, fresh, white rose. It is the symbol of the Scholz, of the student resistance group in Munich, a group you have no connection to, a group the Gestapo has been hunting and executing with merciless efficiency. It is not a threat. It is a message. But from who? And what in God's name does it mean? The rose paralyzes you. It is a symbol of hope in a place you know is hopeless, a living thing in your sterile tomb of an office. Its silent presence is louder than any threat. It's an impossible gesture. It could be from a sympathizer, a silent partner you never knew you had, a ghostly hand reaching out to tell you that you are not alone. Or it could be from them. It could be the Gestapo, playing a final, cruel psychological game before the arrest, a theatrical flourish to show you they know everything, even the secrets of your own conscience. You tear your small apartment apart, your hands shaking, searching for listening devices, for any sign of forced entry, for any clue. You find nothing. The ambiguity is a form of torture all its own, worse than any certainty. You stare at the rose, its perfect white petals a stark contrast to the dark glass of the cyanide capsule beside it. The path of letting the plan proceed is the path of a coward, a path you have already rejected. You would die spiritually, a murderer of your own family, haunted for the rest of your days. The path of confession is a path of certain physical death, but it is the only way to undo the evil you have set in motion. It is the only way to save your nephew. To save them all, you must sacrifice yourself. The rose, whatever its meaning, doesn't change the destination. It only makes the journey stranger. The choice becomes brutally clear. You do not sleep that last night. You sit at your desk, the rose and a water glass before you, and you write. Not a confession, not a political manifesto. A letter. You write to your sister, a long letter full of small, shared memories of your childhood, of summers at the lake, of inside jokes only she will understand. You don't mention the war. You don't mention the dome. You don't mention her son. You just write about the good things, the time before the world went mad. It is a farewell disguised as a reminiscence. You seal it. You also write a separate, technical report, a dense, dry, and purely factual document detailing the structural flaw in the dome's tension ring, addressed to the Ministry of Armaments. You will give both to a trusted mail carrier on your way, to be sent after you are gone. You leave your apartment and walk the darkened streets of Berlin. For the first time in a long time, you are not looking for Pervitin. You are looking for a moment of peace. You find yourself standing before a church, its spires shattered by a bomb, the jagged ruin pointing to sky, like a broken finger. You have not prayed in 20 years. You don't go inside. You just stand in the cold night air, looking at the ruin, feeling a profound kinship with its brokenness. As dawn breaks, staining the sky the color of a fresh bruise, you know it's time. You will not wait for them to come for you. You will go to them. You begin the long walk to Gestapo headquarters on Prinz Albrechtstrasse. Each step on the cold pavement is heavy, final. The city is coming to life around you. People rush to work, their faces pinched with the worries of survival. They have no idea of the catastrophe you have just averted for them. They will never know your name or what you did. You will be an erased line on a forgotten blueprint. You walk into the lion's den. The SS guard at the front desk looks at you, a thin, haggard man in a rumpled suit with bored indifference. You announce your name. I am Hans Richter, Chief Design Architect for the Grosshalle. I have information regarding a critical act of sabotage. The boredom vanishes from his eyes. You are taken to a small, windowless room with a single table and 2 chairs. You wait. An hour passes. Finally, the door opens and the same agent who interrogated you months ago walks in. The man with the stale coffee breath and the manicured fingernails. He doesn't look surprised to see you. He simply sits down across from you, places a thin file on the table between you, and says, "Begin!" You tell him everything. Or rather, you tell him a version of everything. You leave out the network. You leave out Klaus and Greta. You paint yourself as a lone traitor, an artist who suffered a crisis of conscience. You explain the flaw in the dome with the cold, technical precision of an architect confessing to a design flaw, not a spy revealing conspiracy. As you speak, you watch his face, waiting for a reaction. Shock, anger, triumph. You see nothing, just a flat, professional blankness. When you are finished, the Gestapo agent lets the silence hang in the air for a long time. Then he leans forward and slides the file across the table towards you. Your file. He opens it. Inside, on the very top, is a grainy black and white photograph. It is you, sitting on the bench in the Tiergarten, tying your shoe. Beneath it is another photo of the same bench. Moments later, as a man you don't recognize picks up your rolled-up newspaper. There are transcripts of your whispered conversation with Klaus on the fog-shrouded bridge. There is a photograph of Greta leaving her apartment building. They knew. They have known everything, almost from the very beginning. We let it continue, the agent says. His voice is flat and gray as the concrete walls around you. A flawed dome is a useful intelligence tool, a piece of bait. It lets us see who is involved, who talks to whom, who sweats when an inspector comes near. Your grand act of sabotage was never a secret. It was a fly trap, and you, Greta, and Klaus were the flies, buzzing dutifully towards it. The white rose, he explains with a flicker of a smile, was from him. A final, cruelist, a theatrical touch. We wanted to see what the man of conscience would do when pushed to the very edge. He stands up, closing the file. The sound is final, like a judge's gavel. The flaw you designed is quite brilliant, Richter, the agent says, walking toward the door. So brilliant, in fact, that we've already corrected it. Construction proceeded with modified, perfectly safe blueprint weeks ago. The Führer's inauguration will be a great success. He opens the door and looks back at you, your world collapsing into a black hole of utter futility. Your confession is noted, but your act of sabotage failed before it even began. What you are guilty of now is simply treason. He steps out, and you realize the most horrifying truth of all. Your sacrifice, your great moral choice, was meaningless. You saved no one, because there was nothing left to save. You don't remember the walk from the interrogation room. You are simply here, in a concrete box. For walls, a floor, a ceiling. There is a wooden plank for a bed, and a bucket in the corner. The silence is absolute, a heavy blanket that smothers all thought. There is no day or night, only the dim, constant glare of a single bulb behind a thick metal grate. Your grand sacrifice, your final checkmate move against the monstrous machine of the Reich, was a fool's errand. They had already won the game before you even knew you were playing. The humiliation is a heavier weight than the fear. The interrogations are not what you expected. There is no physical torture, no bright lights or rubber truncheons. It is something far worse. They ask you the same questions, over and over again, in the same flat, monotone voice. About Klaus, about Greta, about the librarian, about the network they already know everything about. You give them the same answer. You acted alone. You know they don't believe you. You know they already have the answers from others who were not as strong. This is not about gathering information. It is an exercise in futility, a slow, methodical process of breaking your mind, of grinding your spirit down into dust. Your body begins to scream for the Pervitin. The withdrawal is a slow-motion collapse. The shakes return, racking your emaciated frame. Cold sweats leave you shivering on the wooden plank. A crushing, bone-deep fatigue makes it impossible to even stand. But the worst part is the clarity. Without the drug's metallic, protective haze, the full weight of your failure presses down on you. Your stupidity, your arrogance, your utter, complete uselessness. You crave the numbness. You would kill for one more pill, not for the focus, but just to make the thought stop. Weeks pass, or maybe it is only days. Time has lost its meaning. One day, the heavy steel door groans open, and Herr Schmidt is standing there, framed in the doorway. He is wearing a new, impeccably tailored suit. He looks at you, a thing of rags and filth in the corner, with a kind of clinical pity, the way a doctor might look at a failed experiment. "Such a waste of talent, Richter," he says, his voice echoing in the small cell. He tells you the dome is nearly finished. He tells you the official story in the newspapers is that you suffered a severe mental breakdown from overwork, a tragic casualty of patriotic fervor. Your name is being erased from the project, your contributions and designs quietly assigned to other, more stable architects. The irony, Schmidt says, a thin smile touching his lips as he turns to leave, is that your little episode gave us a brilliant idea. We've implemented a new loyalty program for all senior project members across the Reich, a daily vitamin supplement, to ensure focus and unwavering patriotism. He pauses at the door. Your failure has made the Reich stronger. They have not only defeated you, they have absorbed and institutionalized the very tool of your rebellion. Time ceases to have meaning. You only know it's passing by the faint tremors you feel through the concrete floor. The Allied bombing is getting closer, more frequent. The whole prison shakes. Plaster dust rains down from the ceiling in a fine, gray snow. You hear the distant, heavy crump of explosions, the mournful scream of sirens that never seem to stop. The world you try to save and the world you try to destroy are both being turned to rubble by a force far greater and more indifferent than your own small, failed conspiracy. One day, the tremors are no longer distant. They are violent, cataclysmic. The light bulb overhead shatters, plunging you into darkness. You hear shouting in the corridors, the sound of running boots, then the sharp, close crack of gunfire, then a profound, ringing silence. Hours later, the cell door is blasted open, torn from its hinges. A soldier stands silhouetted in the dust-filled opening. His uniform is unfamiliar, his language a harsh, guttural Russian. He shines a light on you, a skeletal figure in rags, blinking in the sudden glare. He grunts something to his comrade. He doesn't see a resistance fighter. He doesn't see a Nazi architect. He just sees a prisoner, another piece of human debris to be cleared away. You are led out into the blinding, painful light. Berlin is a ruin, a moonscape of skeletal buildings, twisted steel, and smoke that chokes the air. You look towards the city center, and you realize the gross Halle, your masterpiece, your tomb, your monument to failure, will never be finished. The entire Germania project is buried under tons of rubble. The 1,000-year Reich lasted 12 years. The war is over. You are free. But as you stand there, a scarecrow in the dust-filled air, you feel nothing. No relief, no joy, no sorrow. The architect is gone. The spy is gone. The man named Hans Richter is gone. All that's left is the hollow space they once occupied. And so you are left standing. Not a hero, not a martyr, just a ghost in the ruins of a dream you helped build and try to destroy. The pills are gone, but their echo remains. A tremor in the hands, a hollow space behind the eyes. You were a soldier in a war fought on blueprints, a casualty of a battle no one will ever record, a footnote in the architecture of a nightmare.